seat has been added under new business. So the recommendation is that the agenda be approved as amended. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Day, is there any discussion? Call the vote. All in favor? And actually, somewhere here, I have another note to read. Just before we get into the rest of the meeting, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge an important leadership transition for our township. As announced earlier today, Council is pleased to share that Ryan Thompson has been appointed our new Chief Administrative Officer effective October 6th. Welcome, Ryan. Thanks for being here with us this evening. Many of us around the table have had the opportunity to work closely with Ryan over the years. I've had the privilege of serving alongside him on council, and I've always valued his thoughtful approach and deep commitment to our community. In addition to his years of service here in Georgian Bluffs, Ryan also brings extensive professional experience, most recently as Director of Services at Bruce Gray Child and Family Services, and he holds multiple degrees in social work, sociology, and public administration, along with executive leadership training from the Rotman School of Business. He formally resigned his council seat last week to take on this new role, and a report will be coming forward soon to outline options for filling the vacancy. We're truly fortunate to have someone with Ryan's knowledge, experience, and dedication stepping into this key position, and I look forward, as I'm sure everyone else does, to continuing to work with him in this new capacity as we move our township forward. Does any member have a pecuniary interest to declare? Seeing none, seeing none, you may declare at any time throughout the meeting if one should arise. Minutes of previous meetings, the recommendation is that the meeting minutes contained herein be adopted. And I would note that that's council on July 16th, special council July 7th, July 11th, July 28th, and August 20th. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Scholdes, Councillor Winters, is there any discussion on any of those? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Does any member wish to make an announcement? Seeing none, we will carry on. Public participation for delegations on agenda items. Any person who wishes to appear before council regarding an item on the agenda must register with the clerk's office. To register, you can complete the online delegation form at www.georgianbluffs.ca/delegations or call the clerk's office at 519-376-2729, extension 603, or register in council chambers with the clerk prior to the meeting start time at 5 p.m. And we have no delegations this evening. Consent agenda. Are there any items on there that anyone would like to have pulled? Councillor Day.
9.1.1, 9.1.5, and 9.1.6.
Councillor Scholdes.
I'd like to pull 9.3.1.
Councillor Winters.
9.4.
Okay, and I have to look and see which ones of mine have already been pulled. 9.1.7 and 9.3.2. Okay. Councillor Day, we'll start with you, 9.1.1.
Yeah, I suspect this one might be easy and fast. Last year, I think I pulled the same request to acknowledge the annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day. Those are important people within our community, and I don't think we have to do anything expensive, but organizing a public announcement, perhaps a social media post would be effective and quick ways to honor some people who do very important work for those young people in the world where so much development happens. I would make the motion that we acknowledge early, participate in Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day on Tuesday, October 21st.
Can I have a seconder on that one? Deputy Mayor Pringle, any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Councillor Coburn, are you hearing us? And because I'm only seeing your picture, so I'm not seeing if you're actually voting. I just
Oh, I'm raising my hand every time to vote, so I wonder if I've done something with the view. And yes, I'm hearing everything. So you can't actually see me?
No, I haven't seen you vote, and I just realized that now. So let's get that fixed. Okay, now we can see you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, next item 9.1.5.
I believe that's also me.
Yes.
In past years, we have also supported the annual Youth Climate Action Conference. I know we have changed our donation policy since that time, so I'd appreciate perhaps some staff help to see if we are able to replicate our donation of $500 as we did last year. This conference brings students and teachers together from elementary schools across grade groups, as well as some high school leaders to help coordinate and do some social media work for them. And a lot of initiatives come out of this, such as the one where Keppel Sarawak Tank came to visit us to request composters. That project was born at this conference. So if we're able to support it, I would be interested in seeing us support it. Then again, we should check with the donation policy to see if that's possible.
Sam?
So through you, the donation policy was actually repealed, unfortunately, and replaced with a fee waiver policy. However, that would not bar council if they did wish to contribute towards this. I would recommend funding from your advertising and special events budget line.
Thank you. My apologies for forgetting the stages along the way. I do remember that now. And I would, along with that, make a motion to do as our staff suggested, to have it come out of the, would you repeat that one more time?
Advertising and special events budget line.
Advertising and special events budget line.
Okay. Could we have a seconder on that one? Councillor Coburn? Is there any other discussion?
Just for discussion and just a food for thought. I mean, I believe we have quite an account for climate action. And I don't know where the other special events and announcements budget is, but I do believe that there's probably over $300,000 in a climate action account that to me seems more suited for, right?
Sam?
For you, yes, you are correct. You do have your climate action reserve as well if you wish to fund it from there.
Councillor Coburn?
Thank you, and through you to Councillor Winters, thank you for making that point. That makes a lot of sense. And then we're not seen as perhaps violating our own policy. So I would withdraw and my seconding and have it come out of the other account, the climate action account.
Okay. Councillor Day?
I am comfortable with withdrawing and resubmitting or amending the material.
Okay. Any other discussion on that one? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That has carried. And Councillor Day, 9.1.6 is yours as well.
Yes, absolutely. I drew this one just to bring it more to attention, to point out that there is an election coming up. And as someone who ran for the first time last year, and there's some others around the table around the horseshoe in similar circumstances, there was a lot to learn. So if anyone is interested, there are two events this fall where you can learn more about how the elections work on September 18th and September 23rd. And information should be fairly easy to find on social media, in the media, and in our agenda.
Excellent. We don't really need a motion on that one. We're just highlighting that for information.
To receive it from
Oh, to receive it for information. Okay. Okay, so do you want to make that motion to receive it?
Yes, so I move that we receive that one for information.
Okay. And a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Pringle? If there's no other discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Councillor Scholz, 9.3.1.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important that we lend our support to AMLR's resolution. The fact is our veterans are the reason we enjoy the rights and freedoms that we have today in Canada. Right now, the income support threshold for veterans is just $20,000 a year, a number set back in 2019 pre-pandemic. With the cost of living the way it is today, that figure is simply not enough. AMLR is calling on the federal government to raise it to at least $40,000 and to review veterans programs so that they actually reflect today's realities. I believe that Georgian Bluff should stand with Aylmer and stand with our veterans. This is about showing respect and making sure our veterans live with dignity and civility.
Thank you. And you would like to make a motion that we support that? Councillor Winters, you're seconding it?
Yes.
Perfect. Any other discussion on that item? I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Well said, Councillor Shoulders. Thank you. And Councillor Winters, 9.4.
Thank you. Nothing in particular about what's contained within the drinking water reports, but looking back about a year ago, I brought this up at council that buried in those reports are MOECP annual inspection reports and ratings. It was my understanding last year that when those reports came back, they would be standalone presentations, reports to council. I think it's important that the water users get to see those inspection results. They get to know that their systems are maintained. But I do remember a conversation last year that they would become as a standalone report. And again, I find them buried in this agenda.
I'm going to turn to staff. Was there another interpretation of that this would come as a report at a different time?
Through you, Mayor Carlton, we're happy to include them as informational reports under the regular staff report section.
As other municipalities do it, I think it's a good news story. They've all been rated at 100%, but you get to see what each inspector is looking at. And the inspectors do rotate every couple of years, so it's nice to see a different perspective on what they're looking at in your water systems. You know, we do have good quality water and we do have rates that support good quality water, but I just think the residents need to see that those inspection reports are there.
Okay. Do we need, Carly's nodding, what motion do we need there then?
To receive information.
Okay, so Councillor Winters, you'll make that motion to receive, and I need a seconder, please. Councillor Shoulders, any other comments on those? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. And I think it's over to me now. 9.1.7 is about the Ontario Senior Achievement Awards. And I brought that forward simply, I think, to highlight it, that I think this is very important and to kind of get it out there a little more to see if anyone has an idea of someone who should be nominated for that. And that can either come from around the horseshoe, I think, or from someone in the public to nominate. So I'm really just putting it out there. So if we just receive that for information, I need somebody to make a motion on that one, please. Because the mayor doesn't make motions.
I'll make that motion.
Deputy Mayor Pringle and a seconder, Councillor Shoulders. All in favor? That is carried. And the last item, sorry, I have to get back here, 9.3.2 was opposition to Bill 17, just to show support for that one. I think it's important to keep showing the government that we're pushing back a little bit on some of these things that they're doing. So again, if others agree with me and are willing to support that, I would call for a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Shoulders, any further discussion? Councillor Day.
Just very in support of this. I have a, memories can be tricky sometimes. Have we done this already in June?
Clerk is nodding her head. So in June, was it the same municipality or a different one?
Probably a different municipality
Yeah.
that we supported in the resolution.
And I would
I
ask it to go out to all municipalities the way previous ones have, just to show Aurora Town Council that we're supporting them and what they're saying.
Yeah.
But good point, thank you. Any other comments? I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, we got through the consent agenda. Almost. Carly's holding her hand up.
Through you, Mayor Carlton, we did miss a motion, my apologies, it was not in the script, to adopt the remainder of the consent agenda. So we would need to adopt that for information, so that the consent agenda be adopted as circulated for information, list items 9.1.1, 9.1.5, 9.1.6, 9.3.1, 9.4, 9.1.7, and 9.3.2.
Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder there, please? Councillor Winters and Councillor Day, all in favor? That is carried. Okay. So we are on to committee reports. The recommendation is that the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held on September 3rd, 2025 be adopted, including recommendations COW 2025-035 to COW 2025-039, and that all actions contained therein be approved. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Coburn and Councillor Day. Is there any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. We have no information reports in 11.2. 11.3, recommendation report. The first item is the 2026 council calendar. The recommendation is that the 2026 council calendar as appended to report COR 2025-035 be approved, and that staff be directed to carry out all necessary administrative actions to conduct the meetings contained herein. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Schuldeis. Any discussion here? Councillor Coburn.
Yeah, I understand the rationale for shifting the summer break. I guess I have some concerns about shifting that so that it coincides with the pre-election dates, such that we are now taking 8 weeks off, I believe, mid-September to the new term of council. That seems like a long period of time. And I wondered if we ought to perhaps meet once during that period of time. I'm sure business will come up. Lame duck may or may not apply to us depending on who's running and who's not. So I don't know if anyone else has any concerns about that lengthy period of time off. If it's just me, then I won't consider it a big deal. The second thing is just making sure we're retaining our devices and access. I know they were removed from us, I believe, at the end of the last term, and that was concerning for many of us. So just those 2 points. If anyone else cares to weigh in, I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you for those comments. Anyone else have comments? Councillor Day.
As someone in their first term, I would appreciate hearing other like support for the calendar as is, or support for changes to the calendar, just because it's not a time frame and process with which I'm familiar. And just to clarify, the final council meeting of the term is September 16th. There's a different date in the report and on the calendar.
So I had noticed that inconsistency. I tend to agree with what Councillor Coburn is saying, that having that going from mid-September right through until new council starts in November seems like too long a stretch for council not to be taking part in meetings. I would suggest at least one in October and perhaps one in early November. We are still the sitting council. We should still have our devices and have our access to our emails for residents to get in touch with us and such. So I would suggest we look at least one in October. I get not maybe having meetings during the actual election process, but I think it would also not hurt to clean things up just before the new council starts. So I would look to other council members for their thoughts on that.
I would agree with you. I think that's far too long a period without any meetings. And again, depending on the situation that arises, whether it's lame duck or not lame duck, that can be adjusted accordingly.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, planning wise, I would support.
So if we were to look at having an October 7th and a November 4th, and if things change, those can be canceled later, but I think we'd like to at least have them in the calendar at this point. So Councillor Coburn, I'm going to turn to you. Were you making a motion to that effect, and would you agree with those dates?
Yes, actually, I was just typing out some wording, but probably our clerk is way ahead of me. So I would make the motion that we accept the new calendar with the revision that we meet on October 7th and November 4th, rather than taking that entire period of time off.
Okay, and do we need clarification with staff that we will have technology right through to the end? Carly, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, through you, yes. Council devices will not be returned until November 14th, which is the last day of your sitting term. We are phasing out your iPads and replacing them with new technology for the newly elected members. So you will have access to your devices until the very last day of this term. So just through you, if I could, just to provide some clarity for the way that the draft schedule was written. I would just like council to consider that the business of the clerk's department, such as our cemetery operations, our licensing, animal control, all of those things continue through the election period, up to the election period when we're preparing for the election, and post-election when we are shifting from the current council to the new council. So all of those things are still happening. We're a really small department. We will be spending countless hours at, voter help centers, and also spending the majority of our day leading up to the election, basically commencing in August, sometimes even May, when nominations open, facilitating voters list amendments, accepting nomination papers. So basically for a good chunk of next year, we are in election mode. And so just for council's clarity, there was nothing scheduled in October and November just for those specific reasons because, managing the election will be a big task for us and it's very resource intensive. So just to provide some clarity why there was not a council meeting in October or November.
Anyone on council have, Councillor Day?
Is there a way during that election period to find support through other departments or temporary staff? Has that ever been considered or used before in the municipality through the mayor to whomever has experience, perhaps the clerk's department?
Thank you, through you. It is kind of an all hands on deck situation when we do the election administration and the voter help centers. We do have our customer service staff who provide some support in managing voters list amendments and things like that. And we do try to get other departments to help us manage at voter help centers and things like that. So, but they are long days and we have to be cautious of the number of hours people are working in excess of a regular day. So we do our best to schedule those at that time, but again, it's on a volunteer basis. We could consider hiring a temporary staff to assist through the election period. That would probably be the most effective option, but we do our best to leverage the resources that we have available to us. But it is still a very, very big task in addition to continuing the day-to-day. So,
Councillor Coburn?
I think, thanks for your comments, Clerk Carly. I think we can all appreciate that that's going to be a very busy time, and I don't mean to add to your workload by recommending another couple of meetings. I wonder, as well as staff shifting their responsibilities around on our administrative team, does the county offer any support for municipalities with the election process, and can we leverage some more support via the county?
through you, they do provide some support to us with respect to advertising and organizing. They do the orientation for the new councils and things like that, but they really only provide that support on a regional basis and not to specific municipalities.
So my suggestion is we go with the motion that's on the table where we're adding those two dates in as placeholders in the calendar, and it can be subject to change as we get closer to that time frame. But I think moving toward that, I'd still sooner see those dates be listed in the calendar than to have it totally blank. Councillor Schulweis.
I would agree with adding those two dates. Just a question to the clerk, has that been done historically in the past through election season? Have you guys hired a part-time line for anybody? That has not been done before?
Through you, we haven't at least in the last election cycle, we just didn't have council business through the election period to allow the clerk's department to focus on administering the election. So support hasn't been needed in the past.
If there's no further discussion on the motion, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next item is 11.3.1.2, housekeeping bylaw. The recommendation is that a bylaw to repeal all inactive bylaws described within report COR 2025-036 be presented to council for consideration. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Winters and Councillor Coburn. And before I turn to the clerk, I will thank you for not putting the actual bylaws in there so that we had to read each and every one, just a list of numbers. So I will turn to you for comments.
Thank you, Mayor Carlton, through you. So the housekeeping bylaw that is in front of you is a result of quite a number of months of work in sorting through our bylaws that have existed in every form, being active, inactive, expired, lapsed, or formally repealed. So, and having gone through that exercise, I did identify a number of bylaws that either were predated, were expired agreements, were former personnel who are no longer at the township, and some committees and boards that were replaced by either the committee of the whole structure or were created for a specific purpose, and that specific purpose has been fulfilled. In addition, there were a number of airport bylaws, and as the township no longer owns and operates the airport, those bylaws are no longer needed. There are a few of them that were replaced by new bylaws but were not formally repealed, so that was just an administrative error in not having the former bylaw repealed. And then we did have one situation where there was a bylaw repealed, but the amendment to that bylaw was not also repealed. And then there are some fee and taxation imposition bylaws that are no longer applicable, given that every single year we pass a new one. So there was a bit of an inconsistent practice with those bylaws whereby some of them were repealed, but a number of them weren't. And so for consistency and to clean up the active bylaw repository, I am recommending that those bylaws that are no longer needed be repealed. Other than that, I have really nothing exciting to highlight in here, but I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Okay, thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions on that one? Councillor Coburn.
No questions. I just wanted to thank the clerk and her team for that work. It's kind of like cleaning out your closet spring and fall. I bet it felt really good. I wonder if it might have been more useful to have the names or the titles of the bylaws that were being cleaned out, for lack of a better term. I think it would have been more meaningful than just a list of numbers, but I do, like the mayor, thank you for not including them all as attachments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Day, did you have a comment?
I was just going to also thank the clerk's department for their, I agree that kind of work feels good and has a nice outcome to it, and I'm cognizant of how much work it must have been to find and list all of those, categorize all of those, so thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other comments, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next item is my request for additional conference allowance. The recommendation that council approve expenses in addition to the annual professional development allotment to allow myself to attend the 2025 Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, which takes place in London on behalf of the Township of Georgian Bluffs. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Schuldeis. And I'll just maybe give a little background. I even forget the amount. It's 143.33. My reason in wanting to go to that conference when I could finally read their draft agenda, there's a lot on infrastructure development and funding, housing, workforce development and preservation, mental health services and support. So it's usually a fairly packed agenda on that one, but it's always been well worth going to. So I would appreciate if council would approve me for that overage on conference budget. Is there any questions?
Just, I would be remiss if I didn't ask. I assume I know the answer because I didn't use all of my educational allowance, but I assume that we're still under budget on that. I mean,
On the overall
on the
budget,
overall
yeah, it's just
budget.
me over on mine.
No,
Yeah,
that's- Yep.
okay. I will call the vote then. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I can go and try and learn more stuff. Next item on the agenda is the water meter replacement. Recommendation is that council award RFP 2025-08 to Neptune Technology Group Canada Company for the water meter replacement at a total price of $657,750, including non-refundable HST and contingency. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Winters and Councillor Coburn. Is Sam, you're speaking to this one?
Thank you, and through you. So on June 4th of this year, staff posted the RFP. We did have 6 plan takers with only 1 submission. The submission was deemed non-compliant. It was from Neptune Technology Group, who is our current provider. In 2013 is when we moved to Neptune, and they had installed the current meter and valve that is being used. Those meters are finding to start to fail, where they are not reading all of the water that is going through them. They are reading approximately, some are reading only 80% of what is going through, so we're not capturing an actual household consumption. The new meter that we are looking to replace with doesn't have that component which is failing in the previous, that it does last the 20 years that they are expecting as a life cycle. And it allows for more regular consumptions and would assist in taking some staff time that is currently required to go and visit households to obtain a reading, no longer needed, as we can gather that information here off site.
Any questions from council on this? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. We are moving on to community and environmental services. So recommendation is that council award RFT 2025-06 to Lewis Motors for the purchase of a 2026 International HV 615 single axle plow truck with full snow clearing equipment at a total price of $405,873, excluding HST. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Schuldeis, Councillor Winters. Is anyone, Jerry, over to you.
Through your Mayor Carlton to council. As described in the report, we put out a tender for our replacement of one of our oldest single axle snowplow trucks. We had 2 planned takers, one being Lewis Motors, the other one is Curry's. Our, I would say, normal planned takers historically for these vehicles. Both were appropriate tenders, and that price submitted for both were about 10,000 different, with Lewis being the low bid. We've worked with Lewis in the past, and we see no reason not to award. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Councillor Winters.
So just through you to Jerry, I mean, I assume this truck still comes equipped with stainless steel box and everything else, which has become kind of standardized in municipalities. What size of motor is in this truck? What is the spec for the motor?
Like horsepower wise, or
Liter wise? Is it 13 liter or larger? I don't know anybody that has experience with the Navistar engine, but all the reviews that I find say that it uses about 2.5 to 3% more DEF fluid than the other diesel engines on the road. So there's a cost of ownership that seems to be an issue with these things. All new technology sounds great when you do it, unless you start to actually use it, and then you realize that you bought the wrong technology. And I don't know what to buy for a truck today that doesn't cause you issues, but I'm skeptical when I start hearing, hey, this is a new and improved brand new motor last year. Well, they changed it for a reason, and who are the guinea pigs, right? I have a fleet full of guinea pig trucks. I understand this.
through you, Mayor Colton, it is a 12.74 liter engine. My research on them, I have some trusted allies at other municipalities that have had this new engine so far, at least for the 1 year, and they have not noted any, let's say, the typical issues that have been happening as of late of this particular brand, of why the township moved away from it a little bit as of late. So I have no information that would lead me astray if not wording.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one more.
Yep, go ahead.
Because in the report, it talks about extended warranty. Have we ever, as a municipality, bought an extended warranty for the truck? I'm not sure we have.
I don't have a whole lot. We put warranty, I believe, on one vehicle that was extended, but I can't tell you off the top of my head what. I don't think it's been a standard practice, but I just noted it in there if council was in favor of doing that, but it's not part of the price that was submitted in the report.
That was actually one of my questions. Deputy Mayor Pringle, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Carl. Yeah, just that when there's so many uncertainties about trucks anymore, that extended coverage or warranty at $12,000 doesn't maybe seem as daunting as having a truck in a garage for weeks at a time and not being able to work. So it's shows 84 months or 240,000 kilometers for an initial $12,000. I would tend to be in favor of taking that extended warranty just for the fact that there's a lot of issues, a lot of big trucks today. So I'm not sure what the rest of council thinks, but I know coming from the trucks that we have in our fleet, the new stuff breaks down too. So, and it costs a lot of money. So I don't know if it's a appetite for the rest of the council, but at the end of the day, $12,000 is $12,000, but I think it'd be money well spent if we got issues.
Councillor Coburn?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Carlton. I would concur with Deputy Mayor Pringle. I think when we're spending that much on a vehicle, it makes sense. I would definitely be in favor of that as well.
Councillor Day?
If I'm doing my math correctly in my head right now, it looks like the overall cost would still be lower than what we budgeted for, so I concur with that. That would be why.
Excellent, good, thank you. So that took one of my questions. The other one was, what is the age of our oldest truck in the fleet now? Do we know how old our oldest one is?
2007.
2007, okay. I was just curious on that one, so. Okay, so do we need an amendment to the motion that's on the floor? Okay, so who would like to make that amendment? Deputy Mayor Pringle and a seconder, Councillor Coburn. So I will call the vote on the amended motion first. Is all in favor on that one? That is carried, and then back to the main motion. If there's no further discussion there, I will call the vote there. All in favor? That is carried, thank you. Next item is on to the guardrail, the recommendation that council award RFT 2025-16 to Boral Fence and Guide Rail Contractors Limited for the supply and installation of steel beam guide rail at Presqu'île Road for the total price of $53,200 excluding HST. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Scholdice? Councillor Winters? Jerry again?
Through you, Mayor Carlton. Staff receiving council's approval for the award of the guide rail tender to Boral Fence and Guide Rail for $53,200 plus HST for the removal of the failed three cable guide rail on Presqu'île Road as it goes down the hill on Presqu'île that splits to Macintosh. It's currently a three cable guide rail that's falling down a 1-to-1 or greater slope, and staff are looking to have that replaced with a steel beam guide rail.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next item under development and infrastructure, recommendation that council receive staff report DED 2025-055, award of contract for, and that council move forward from the 2026 budget $500,000 for the construction of Big Bay Culvert, and that a contract with the firm RF King Holdings for request for tender 2025-14 in the amount of $405,535, excluding HST, be awarded, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute a contract for service. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Coburn. Kevin, I think we're over to you.
Yes, thank you. And through you, just a little bit of brief background on this project. In early 2024, staff procured for consulting services for 2024 and 2026 OSIM investigations, Ontario Structural Investigations, to proceed with investigating the culverts and bridges throughout the township of Georgian Bluffs. In total, there was several deficiencies found throughout some of our larger infrastructure culverts. One of the major infrastructure failures that was found was on the Big Bay culvert, which is located on Big Bay Side Road. I do note, and I do quote, as part of the OSIM investigations, is that the structure consists of a single corrugated steel pipe arch culvert with a span of 2.5 meters and an overall length of 19.3 meters. The structure is located roughly 750 meters north of Cape Road on Big Bay Side Road. The culvert appears to be in overall critical condition with large perforations and evidence of overstressing of the barrel walls. There are two large perforations known on the north and south walls of the culvert. The north perforation measures 4 meters by 0.3 meters, which has caused the north wall of the barrel to settle and slip below the invert. Full hole cracking and crimping of the barrel corrugations were also noted along the south wall. Anecdotally, talking to Jesse Borges, who's the project manager and engineer with Pearson's, and his anecdotes and experience with investigations, he's never seen a corrugated steel pipe such as Big Bay fail in this condition. So this critical failure has prompted staff to proceed with the immediate replacements and immediate tender. So in early 2025, staff procured for the consulting services of the replacement of culverts. And if you recall, the culverts on Kemble Rock Road and Big Bay Side Road. So staff expedited the replacement of the Big Bay culvert, identifying the critical failure in hopes that it could be replaced in 2025. Through recognizing efficiencies within the tendering, staff did procure and successfully awarded the work to Pearson's Engineering to come up with the consulting engineering works, detailed design, contract administration, and construction administration for the replacements of Big Bay Side Road and Camel Rock Side Road. With that, in April, on Monday, July 21st, staff did procure for the replacement of Big Bay culverts. It was open for approximately 4 weeks and closed in August 14th. 40 companies attained bid packages and 7 bids were received. The lowest bid was received by RF King Holdings and was evaluated by Pearson's Engineering and recommendation of award to proceed with award in the amount of $412,672.42, and that includes contingency and the non-refundable portion of HST. So in total transparency and throughout the process of the tendering, Pearson's did recognize that there was timing constraints in order to get the construction completed in 2025. It was made aware to Pearson's that the manufacturing timing window of creating the culvert required to be replaced would not allow us to proceed with construction. Therefore, conversations with staff and Pearson's Engineering came up with a expedited solution of pre-purchasing the culvert from the manufacturer itself. This is a common practice since COVID, when there was manufacturing delays. Municipalities moved to a more expedited timeline to pre-purchase from the manufacturer itself. Pearson's then reached out to 2 of the manufacturers in Ontario, and to my understanding, most likely the only 2 manufacturers of culverts of this size and of this material in Canada. AIL and Armtech for their to participate in a pre-qualification in order to determine if they can deliver the culvert within an expedited time so that staff and Pearson's can proceed with the construction. It was found that through the prerequisites, AIL and Armtech met the requirements and proceeded to request for a costing of the culverts themselves. 2 costs were received, one by AIL and 1 cost was received by Armtech. Both were competitive, however, Armtech had the least of the cost. It was within range of our procurement policy, therefore it was awarded by the treasurer and our acting CAO. This allows staff now to expedite the timelines. We are on schedule. Communications with Armtech is that the delivery of the culvert is still on schedule and it is to be delivered the first week of October, allowing construction to continue and to be complete within 2025. So the tender itself, going back to the tender itself, there was 3 amendments made. Within the amendments, it was recommended the costing submitted by RF King was not recognized under one amendment, and the price had to be adjusted. And it was just for the for a granular quantity. However, again, allowing us to pre-purchase the culvert, having a competitive open request for tender, and has allowed the township to receive competitive bids and to proceed with recommendation of award and to stay on track with the timeline. Construction is anticipated to begin shortly after award. Within September 29th is anticipated construction start. Construction will be about 7 weeks in length, and staff and Pearson's are confident that this critically failed culvert can be replaced within 2025, provided the expedited timelines and the pre-purchasing of the culvert. So staff are recommended to move forward with the award with RF King's Holding in the amount of $405,535.
Thank you. Any questions from council on this one?
If I may.
Yep.
I received a couple of calls just after that amendment or the addendum was issued on the tender regarding the township pre-purchasing the culvert. My AIL has a different version of how they were asked for a price and whether their price was actually a good price or not a price. They thought it was a pretty open-ended, hey, we're just looking for a budget number. They still stand by it. I talked to them this morning and they still said that they stand by that they were asked for a budget number. So they look at the township now and they kind of feel that there's a tarnish around the township saying, hey, this wasn't an open and transparent process. They themselves didn't feel like they were given the right opportunity in the right direction, or whether it was a budget price or whether it was actually a price for procurement. So I did receive that call. So that kind of bothered me a little bit, and it is what it is. As of Monday this week, RF King still has not received a return phone call from Armtech. Armtech is notoriously late in returning phone calls and supply. I get calls on a daily basis that they're 4 or 5 weeks behind. Irregardless, my concern is now as a municipality, we have bought the culvert. We're now opening up a tender. We've got a contract. So when it doesn't show up, we're liable now for costs. When there's no technical rep, there's no technical support. During the tendering process, they couldn't get a call back from the rep saying, how long does it take to put this together? Can we assemble it on site? Can we assemble it at our yard? Can we truck it to the site? What are the obligations? What do we need? There was no return phone calls for the process. So although we got a competitive price, is it a competitive price or did we just pay a premium for the unknown? I think we paid a premium for that. No. I had a conversation with Jesse at Pearson Engineering, and I said, hey, I get this. I get you backed yourself into a corner, and there's a limited opportunity to put this construction season together. But now the municipality is at risk because you didn't follow in the timeframes you backed yourself into a corner. That's, you know, it's great RFK got it. It's great we're replacing the culvert at Big Bay. I don't think this process was open and transparent, and I think it leaves us to a lot of risk. And we now have a tarnish in the industry with AIL saying, hey, George and Bluff, don't know if I'm going to waste the time. AIL did most of the background engineering and support for this project, and then asked for a budget number and feels like the carpet was pulled out from underneath them. Where in an open, transparent process, you let the contractor buy the culvert, you give the contractor deadlines. There are penalties for deadlines that don't get met. We've opened up the window here. Not what I consider good contract administration.
Councillor Winters, I may not be popular with this, but I think this is a case of council getting involved in the operations side of the.
I'm only repeating what was brought to my attention as a councillor. And I deal with tenders day in and day out. I deal with municipalities all across Graybers here on Simcoe counties. And these conversations are had. I'm just explaining to you what the industry now thinks of Georgian Bluffs.
Okay. I think we have to move on. In my mind, that's council getting out of our own lane. I recognize you're in an industry where you're privy to that knowledge, but I think we're getting a little outside of where council should be.
So where, if I may continue, where this report is fine, other than 2 years down the road, if I didn't attend council and I didn't watch the meeting, this report doesn't say anything about sole sourcing. It doesn't say what's the price of the culvert. It doesn't give us the total price of the project. It says $405,000. What's a culvert at Big Bay? That's not a true statement. That's the installed cost. But it's not the purchase price of the culvert. It's not the engineering. It's not the true cost of what the culvert is. And that's my other big beef is you should be able to look back historically and pick up what the intent of this meeting and the conversation was. This report doesn't give you that.
Councillor Coburn?
I think it is within council's purview to be concerned about reputational risk and policy, and there is a procurement policy. So I think that is within our purview. I do wonder if perhaps the right direction we ought to go now is to leave it in the hands of our acting CAO and our soon-to-be new CAO, and ask that they perhaps follow up with some of the procedures to minimize any risk. Would that be a fair statement to make?
I guess maybe a better question here might be, what was the cost of that culvert? Because I think I heard that it stayed within what the purchasing procurement policy is, so it was within staff's ability to make that purchase.
Thank you, Mayor Carlton, and through you. So in facilitating the purchase of the culvert, the treasurer and I did jointly sign off on what was facilitated through a quotation process through the two manufacturers, meaning Armtech and AIC, I believe. The total quote was for $45,000. So we followed the procurement policy that was updated this year, in that the township and I, or the township treasurer and I jointly signed off on the quote to purchase the hard materials from the manufacturers for facilitation of this process. And again, that came back to the timelines for manufacturing and ensuring that the township was able to fix the failed infrastructure prior to it becoming a, critically or actually failed piece of infrastructure wherein the road would essentially fall in upon itself. So we did follow the purchasing policy as it's written, but I'm happy to follow up with the contractor that's been identified or the manufacturer that's been identified to remedy any what I'll say is hard feelings for future procurement processes.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I will call the vote then. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, moving on to bylaws. We have none. Unfinished business, we have none. New business. Declaration of vacant council seat. So notice of resignation was provided to the clerk by Councillor Thompson on September 5th, 2025. In accordance with the Municipal Act 2001, at its next meeting, council must declare the seat vacant. A detailed staff report will be on the September 17th Committee of the Whole agenda to consider options for filling the council vacancy. So the recommendation in front of us tonight is, whereas Section 262, subsection 1 of the Municipal Act 2001 requires that a council declare a seat vacant at their next meeting of council, where a vacancy occurs under Section 259, subsection 1, whereas notice of resignation was filed with the clerk under Section 260, subsection 1 of the Act, and no restriction applies under Section 260, subsection 2. Now therefore that council hereby declares the seat formerly held by Councillor Ryan Thompson vacant, and that council directs staff to bring forward a report at the September 17th meeting to consider options to fill the vacancy. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Coburn, Councillor Day, any discussion? I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Sorry, Councillor Coburn, sorry, I missed that. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Thompson. I have appreciated his leadership and mentorship. We will miss him at the council table, but I'm very excited that he is now going to lead our administrative team. So thank you.
Thank you, and I agree. Next item is rescheduling of September 15th special council business planning strategic session. I believe we are looking for some dates. Are you going to put some dates out to us, or are we going to arrive at a date tonight? Go ahead, Carly.
Thank you, Mayor Carlton. Yes, I have not been able to get sufficient quorum for Monday's meeting, and so it will need to be rescheduled. I believe there has been some discussion about dates, but it sounds like it is probably most convenient if I circulate those via poll.
Yes. So we will leave that with you. Notice of motion. Does any member wish to bring forward a notice of motion or provide notice of discussion at the next council meeting? Seeing none, we have no closed session. Confirming bylaw. Recommendation that bylaw number 2025-058, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on September 10th, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Winters. I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Committee of the Whole will meet as regularly scheduled on September 17th, or did we change that one to being special council because of content?
Thank you, Mayor Carlton, through you. So we do have limited matters for council's consideration on the 17th. The matters for consideration include dealing with the resulting council vacancy, as well as the specific appointments that are affected by the council vacancy. I do believe that as there's no other business on that agenda, that it would be better suited as a special council meeting to ensure that that business is ratified immediately and that there is no delay with ratifying it, as it would only be ratified as of October 1st, but this would take immediate effect and it would shorten the time for council to solicit those applications, given that council must do so within 60 days. So if it was repurposed as a special council meeting, it would certainly be more beneficial for council and that process.
Right. And when you say per applications, the report really coming to us will define what the options are, and we will choose that at the next meeting. So then we'll move forward from there.
Mayor Carlton, if council did opt to go with the application process, this would hinder it, but this change in the meeting would expedite that if that is the option council chooses to pursue.
Any questions on that? Okay, so it will still be next Wednesday at 5 p.m. So recommendation is that tonight's meeting be adjourned at 6:01. Like a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Schultes, Councillor Day, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you.